The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation or bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty.
Earnestly Podcast coming to you January 4th, 2024. I cannot believe we are already 4 days into the new year. Glad you're with us on the podcast as always. First solo pod of the new year. Glad you enjoyed the first pod of the new year we did last night with my friends, my good dude, my friend Zach Degenerate. I was very tired last night, honestly. On 2 hours of sleep. Record that podcast. I had to do another podcast. My other podcast I do, a wrestling podcast, retro podcast. Touch them on in a second. My wife's out of town for today. She's coming out late tonight. She's in Orlando at a play with one of her best friends. I think she's seeing Aladdin, I believe. So she's having a good time there. So I had the kids all day today. And I want to get us in when I could, so it's probably the last pod of the week. You guys noticed last 2 weeks we have not done a student game report. That's mainly due to schedules because my children are still out of school. They don't go back to school until next Wednesday, which, my God, can we get back to that, please? I am over. No disrespect to my children. I love them to death. Glad to have them home for a couple weeks and have family time, and we do all the cool things we do, as a dad, take them get ice cream and snacks and play with friends and, all that good stuff and enjoy family time. But, man, I don't remember as a child getting 2.5 weeks off of school. I remember getting a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, but 2.5 weeks. They're going to get, by the time they go back to school, they're going to get 3 full weekends on top of the 5 days in between 2 weekends. And then an extra 2 days before going to school. And then 3 days later, they're back out of school again for a weekend. So my kid's a little spoiled here. I ain't gonna lie. But I'm looking forward to them to go back to school. Getting back to the schedule. So the reason why I made this podcast, because typically when we do the shows during the year, Kyle and I we do that podcast typically on Tuesday mornings when my kids are in school. So between the hours a little inside baseball here. Between the hours of 10 and 2:30, I have that time to do what I want. Most of the time, I tend to do a lot of my podcasts in those times. But I made a commitment this holiday season, and granted, I could still record while the kids are home, but I made a commitment this holiday season to spend more time with them, and I didn't want to take away time from my children, to do that. And then the nights I'm available to do it, like right now, for example. Kyle's either recording or he's covering a game. He's been covering the Magic this year in the NBA. He was covering a lot of the bowl games this year. So we had a bit of a schedule clash a little bit last 2 weeks. And honestly, I didn't want to push it either. He has his own podcast he does on Wednesdays, especially too. So I didn't want to push that. And honestly, I was okay with going on cruise control, doing the EJ Degenerate, pods, episodes. Those 2 weeks are fine. It's enough football for me. So we're good there. So that's why I'm seeing that on the feed the last 2 weeks. We will definitely be back on that front next week. As we look forward to previewing the first weekend of the playoffs. But like I said, I'm stunned that we're already 4 days into the new year. It's going fast already. How I ran the new year, it was very simple. I recorded a day on New Year's Eve. I recorded a podcast the New Year's Eve. You guys know I've been saying this for a long time. I don't really like going out on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day because it's very dangerous. People are crazy on the road. My wife, for example, calls me. She had to work that day, and she calls me on the way home from work in the evening, and she was telling me that the drivers on the road at 6 p.m. on the road just driving nuts. Like this, she almost got into like 2 accidents on a simple 15-minute drive home from work. And I told her, babe, just get home. Just get home, please, to me, so we can have family time. We intended for our kids to stay up till midnight. They did not make it. My youngest son went to bed. He passed out by 9 o'clock. All the sons stayed awake for a little bit, and he stayed awake till about 10:30. He went outside to a couple of our neighbors had sparklers out, and he was doing a couple of little bit of those things out there. They had some fireworks a little bit. It actually wasn't that crazy this year, though, honestly. Normally, every year around here during New Year's, it gets a little crazy with the fireworks, but this year was actually kind of conservative with the fireworks, not just in the neighborhood, but even like around us. So I was kind of surprised. And like last year was fun. Last year we went out to our friends, a bunch of friends together, but it was close by the house. So like I'll go out depending on who I'm going out with. Like I would never go to a club or a random place for New Year's. I mean, I'd rather be home with my wife and we just enjoyed the night. Last year we went out. We went to a bunch of friends, coworkers, all that. Went to a friend's house. We had a great time, ordered pizza, snacks, and the best part, we all have kids, so we had all our kids there too. So it's kind of like a community kind of thing. That was cool. This year we didn't do that. They didn't do that this year, which is fine. I was okay with staying home this year. I was exhausted. My wife and I, when we got together, we had stopped going out at some point. Around time I turned 30, I think it was. I stopped going out for New Year's, and we started like staying in and watching movies and stuff. And there was one year where we started watching and marathoning the Batman movies, the original 4, with Tim Burton and then Schumacher one, the first 2, Batman Begins, and Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and then Batman Robin. And then that became a bit of a tradition. Like we would do that either on New Year's or we did it on Valentine's Day. Don't ask why. It's weird. I get it. And one reason why we started doing that was because the year Dick Clark passed away. Because number one, her and I were massive Dick Clark fans. We used to always ring in New Year Dick Clark. I even did that before I met her, before my wife and I got together. I always watched the New Year ball drop with Dick Clark. When Dick Clark passed away and he didn't do it anymore, we checked out. Like, no, we're not gonna continue that because no one can ever be better than Dick Clark in terms of that thing. So we started doing our own New Year's. Well, one of the cool years is that the year we became parents, 2012 going to 2013, before we had our oldest son, she couldn't drink that year, so we ended up getting cranberry juice, and because she couldn't drink because she was pregnant, obviously, and I did the same thing too because I didn't want to, if I can't drink, she can't drink. Well, why? I want to drink either, so no champagne. But we started that Batman tradition around 2010, 2011. And we do every year. We do that. If we stay home, we stay and watch a Batman and do like a marathon. We do like 2. If we could do all 4 movies, it'd be great. But when we were kidless, we did all 4 movies. It's harder now because we started a marathon only like an hour before the ball dropped. So that's what we did. And then we that next morning I had to work. I called out of work because my stomach was killing me. That weekend, I actually got the Saturday prior to that, my stomach was really killing me. And next morning I woke up, I feel like crap. So I called my boss and said, listen, I can't come into work today. My stomach's just killing me. Then I started feeling a little better. Like I think like hours later, to the point where my wife had plans to go visit her aunt and her cousin up north, like an hour away from our house. Less than that actually. So I ended up going with them. Had a great day. Great day of fellowship by my family. And then came home, and that's about it, really. We had a very, very monotone day. I watched the games. I watched the college semifinal games. Bama, Michigan. Michigan won. Hooray. Washington, Texas. Washington won. By the way, Michael Penix Jr., phenomenal performance in that game. I'll say it again. You probably see a clip from when I appeared in the Huddle Up podcast this week. I just put up on the YouTube page, my YouTube page at youtube.com/Earnest Christian. Best performance by a quarterback that I've ever seen since Vince Young's legendary 2005 or 05 or 06. I think it's 06 actually. 2005, maybe 05. Performance. It was actually 06 year, 05 season. Since the Vince Young Rose Bowl performance against USC by a quarterback. And Penix Jr. for the record is growing on me now. Penix Jr. is starting to really grow on me in terms of, when I watched him throughout the year, it's like, okay, he's a good player, but I don't know if I see him as an NFL quarterback. The more I watch him, see Washington's schedule this year, and they had easily the toughest schedule in all college football this year. See what he's gone through, beat Oregon twice, then now beating Texas. Yeah, I think this kid, obviously there's concerns about his knees and all the surgeries he's had, but I can see this kid being a really solid NFL quarterback, maybe even better. I think he deserves to be a top five prospect, in my opinion. But we'll see how that plays out. That's what I did. I watched the games and then came home, and then that was it. So the New Year's been kind of it's been nice. It's been a little quiet and whatnot, but I was sick the other day too. Also, I think I mentioned that on the last episode I did with Zach. I had stomach issues and stuff, and that's why I had no sleep. I got 2 hours of sleep the night before. Last night I slept like a baby. So that's what's been going on towards 2024. Very monotone year so far. And I mentioned obviously the Batman marathon we did, my wife and I did. I ended up doing a poll because I watched the obviously the original Batman with Jack Nicholson as a Joker, and I saw the original Batman in theaters as a kid. I was like 9 years old at the time when it came out in 1999. And I put a poll up. I got kind of like, a little discussion here. Because a lot of folks I talked to would say that the greatest Joker ever put to film would be the performance that Heath Ledger did with The Dark Knight. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I just think he was phenomenal. In fact, our good friend on the podcast, Big Jim James Neese, had the best answer when I put the poll. So I put the poll out in different. I put it out on the podcast Facebook group. I put it out on Twitter /X, of course. And I put it out on Instagram. And I'll tell you right now, Heath Ledger won. Heath Ledger. There's no need to give you the numbers because Heath Ledger won all 3 polls by a landslide. And to me personally, I prefer the role of Jack Nicholson, but that's also because I'm also a bigger fan. That movie is my favorite of all of the Batmans that existed, of all of them, of the Christopher Nolans, of the Ben Afflecks, of Robert Pattinson, Clooney, Val Kilmer. That is my favorite Batman movie of all. Is the original Batman with Tim Burton in '89, and Jack Nicholson, his role was phenomenal. I mean, you look at Jack Nicholson's career, you see why he's regarded as arguably the greatest actor of all time. So, but my friend, our good friend Big Jim on the podcast, had the best answer, right? Because I put it on Twitter also too. Who was the best Joker of all time? Was it Jack Nicholson? Was it Heath Ledger? Or was it Joaquin Phoenix, who played the Joker on the adaptation of Joker itself? I think it came out in 2019, I believe it was. And Jim said, yes. Best answer ever. Because all 3 roles, while slightly different, all 3 roles deserve A+. Also, on the Facebook page, too, also, when you vote, that's the one social media page where when you're voting on there, you can actually see not only the results, you can see who's voting. And a lot of the folks on there, I noticed, like if you're 40 and under, you prefer the Heath Ledger version of that. If you're over 40, which I am, of course, most folks are 40 over, prefer the Jack Nicholson role. And you get your occasional Joaquin Phoenix fans that said yes, his was better. Very few though. So the answer is mostly generational. It's about which one impacted you the most. Jack Nicholson's role impacted me more as a child because obviously as a child, that's when I got into Batman. So obviously that was when that movie hit me the hardest. Now, again, Heath Ledger's role, phenomenal. And if you guys know the stories behind all that, you understand that. Why was obviously played a part, arguably played a part in his death because I think he died like 3 months after the film came out or something like that. So, that's just that. There's no wrong answer there, honestly. But all three guys were phenomenal in the role. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. But I had a good. That was actually a really good poll. I liked it a lot. Okay. Little basketball talk here. And I'll save more NBA takes and all that stuff in next week's pod. I have guests lined up for next week. I'm gonna have an NBA podcast over next week. The Lakers are struggling since I think since the tournament, since they went into the tournament, they are 2-8. I know they lost 8 last 10 games. I have to be honest, though. I haven't watched the Lakers as much this year. So hearing all the reports and all the fans alike complaining about Darvin Ham, the head coach Darvin Ham, about performance to the point of people wanting him to get fired. I didn't realize till today that's the thing. Then I see some ESPN pundits talk about it today on the pod on their shows. I see a couple of podcasters, well-known podcasters rather, talking about his performance and people being disgruntled and the Laker players being disgruntled about rotations, all that. Again, I haven't watched a lot of Laker games this year to really assess. Obviously, they're struggling. They're under 500. My Heat beat them last night for the record. Good job by my boys without Jimmy Butler for the record. But I haven't really assessed it to the point where is the I put on Twitter today, like, is the complaints of that warranted? And everybody said yes, it is, which is crazy. Everybody agreed. Laker fans responded on my Twitter saying yes, it was warranted. So what I'll say is this. It's interesting because, like, the worst part about all this for Lakers is the fact that you're getting healthy LeBron, you're getting Anthony Davis healthy, who's going to play probably about more than 70 games this year. He's on pace to play 70 games this year. Okay, and the narrative for years is that as long as those guys are healthy, they're going to win titles or be in a conversation to win titles. They're not the problem necessarily either, too. The roster is weird. Sorry, I think it's a weird roster. They need shooters, obviously, but players are not contributing. D'Angelo Russell's been terrible this year. So, we can blame LeBron and AD and this and that, but they're showing up for the most part. I mean, I know there's some complaints about LeBron not playing defense, but again, the guy's age 39. You can really expect him to play defense like to total bore in the same way he did 10 years ago. Come on now. You do that, then he has nothing on the offensive side. I'm sorry, there's a lot to ask for. I'm not even capable for LeBron there. This is the facts. But the concerning thing here too, and I'm trying to bring this up now because as you look into the Western Conference right now, this is going to be a problem for the Lakers because the West this year is loaded with teams right now. In terms of what's going on in the standings, because we're now in January now, and we did this with the Warriors a few weeks back on the podcast, and we talk about the Warriors can they get into the play-in situation or can they get into the playoffs by the time the year is over, and we said that these teams are stacked right now. I'm bringing it up right now. I'm gonna bring it right now. Give me one quick second. But the Western Conference is stacked to the gills, and you have teams like the Thunder and the Wolves who start the year great. We say, okay, cool, that's nice and dandy, but can it sustain? Well, we're now in January now, and they're still not only sustaining, but now they're starting to prove their worth now because OKC just had a huge win against the Celtics on Tuesday. And there's right now. If you're watching the show on YouTube, for example, I have up the standings currently right now. The 1 seed is the Timberwolves right now. 2 seed the Thunder right now. Those are your top 2 seeds in the West right now, and they're sustaining at this point now. Nuggets, of course, at 3. That's not a surprise. Nuggets are going to be the favorites still to win the West at least. The Clippers are surging at the 4 seed now. The Kings, who were the dogs last year, are still doing pretty good at the 5 seed. Pelicans, who are young and now won 4 in a row, they're at 6 seed. So those are right now, currently, the playoffs are today, are your 6 playoff teams right now. 7's Dallas, which Kyrie Irving missed a chunk of the last, I think, month or so. He's come back now. The Rockets at 8. You thought maybe the Rockets will fall out by the time they're playing, by the time that things settle in, but they're still holding on still. They lost 6 of 10 games. The Suns, who are struggling, they're 9. The Lakers are at 10. He's got the Warriors behind, tied for 10 with the Lakers. And the Grizzlies now are playing better basketball now since John Moran got back. So it's likely that things are going to be the same way it was last year when it came to the to the Lakers, where they're going to probably end up being, a playing team again, because unless teams fall out, and I don't see that happening unless Zion gets hurt or both Luka and and Kyrie both get hurt. So the problem is that too many good teams in the Western Conference now for them to fall too far behind. Now, Lakers are probably a play-in team, most likely. I put the odds on the Lakers being a play-in team as higher than being a playoff team at this point because of that. And they need to make a move. What's the move? Do you got Zach LaVine? Do you take a flyer on Klay Thompson? The Warriors side on a part of them, or that doesn't happen? Do you take a flyer on? Do you trade for, I don't know, DeMar DeRozan? I don't know, but there's concern there. A lot of concern there. All right, another story I want to touch on here real quick. Aaron Rodgers against Jimmy Kimmel. I want to play this story from 2 days ago. You guys heard the stories about the Epstein, the Jerry Epstein files that got dropped 2 days ago, yesterday rather, and Aaron Rodgers was on Pat McAfee's show talking about how there's certain names coming out, and he mentioned Jimmy Kimmel's name, and I'm going to play the report from Inside Edition. It's about a minute and a half of the reaction, the whole story here. I'll play for you guys real quick here. Just give me one quick second, and this is a very fascinating story, and I'll give my opinion on it real quick.
Isn't laughing over a zinger from superstar quarterback Aaron Rodgers. The late-night comic claims Rodgers put my family in danger after the New York Jets star appeared on ESPN's Pat McAfee show and suggested that Kimmel might be on that soon-to-be-released list of associates of notorious predator Jeffrey Epstein.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
Kimmel fired back on social media. Dear blank, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, Kimmel posted. Nor will you find my name on any list other than the
By the way, dear blank, you meant dear asshole, for the record.
Clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. And he warned, keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court.
Oh, boy.
McAfee tried to play peacemaker on his show today.
So we apologize for being a part of it. Can't wait to hear what Aaron has to say about it. Hopefully those two will just be able to settle this, not court-wise.
More than 100.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the gist of the story there real quick. But yeah, basically Aaron Rodgers, he's been kind of weird last couple of years. Diamond's conspiracy theories. And by the way, the Epstein files did come out yesterday. As far as I know, Jimmy Kimmel's name is not on the files, as far as I know. I could be wrong with that. We'll check it out in a second. And let me say this. I don't necessarily care for Jimmy Kimmel. I don't find him funny at all. I find it gross. I can't even say he's overrated, because overrated would say that he's actually good, but not good as you think. No, I don't think it's funny at all. I think some things he said in the past too, especially, has been a little bit, some bit, in my opinion, offensive, but it's okay. But it's kind of funny that he's pissed off because of and granted, he has a right to be pissed off, because even if Aaron Rodgers is kneeling him, the fact that you can assimilate or just make the assumption that Jimmy Kimmel could be a pedophile, that's a serious claim. And I love Aaron Rodgers as a player. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the history of the game. I've said for years that he was before Pat Mahomes showed up, was the most talented quarterback that ever played a game. But Aaron Rodgers has gone through this a little bit of this heel turn, I guess you want to call it. And on one hand, I'll be honest with you, I appreciate the independent thought. I do. I do. I don't have to agree with what you said, but I can appreciate the independent thought. But there's a lot of tinfoil hat stuff when it comes to Rodgers now that's a little bit uncomfortable. And again, it's his right. It's his right. It's his words, whatever. And people also mad at Pat McAfee because he's giving him a platform. I mean that's an opinion too. I don't know, that free speech thing, that kind of thing, and people want to cancel him now. Stop. But that's some dangerous shit that Aaron Rodgers is doing there. Be very careful. Like, to me, when you start talking about accusing folks of being pedophiles without any facts or proof behind it, and if Jimmy Kimmel is saying what he's saying is true, that it's put his family in danger, which I'm not going to say he's wrong, or let's say he's lying about that, because it's a serious accusation. Some dangerous shit there, bud. Just saying. And I said as someone who can't stand Jimmy Kimmel. I am not a fan of whatsoever of the guy. But that's pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up. I'll say that. Especially now when, from far as I know, I did not see his name on the list that came out yesterday. So, all right. One more thing we got out of here. You guys know I have a bunch of podcasts. I want to say a bunch, like total. Well, by the time we get into the next 2 months, I'll have 4 podcasts. I do Huddle Up podcasts with our good friends, Big Jim, Kyle, Matt, and all that. But also with the shows that I technically run, this one, Unfiltered, and then I have a wrestling podcast called the Wrestling Retrospective. I say it slow because it's hard. There's a lot of the Wrestling Retrospective podcast, which is mainly discussions and other things surrounding old school wrestling. That's my thing. I still love the new product, but I'm an old school guy to the end. But if you've been following that show for the last few months now, especially, we've really leaned in to doing watch-alongs. Like I did that, and I did the watch-alongs with the attempt of, okay, we'll do it once in a blue moon, but it ended up being a thing where every show I've done since August, I've just kept doing it. We actually did just this past just yesterday we're doing a little couple of Royal Rumbles this month. We just did the 2010 Royal Rumble. I had Big Jim on with Ryan Miller of the 3CT podcast. This past few months, though, we just wrapped up watching all 5 episodes, or 6, well, including the main event, but all 6 episodes from 1988 of the Saturday Night's Main Event, all the episodes of that year. And I gotta tell you, man, I really enjoy the watch-alongs. I do. I really do. Because one of the cool things about watch-alongs, especially too when you have myself and other guests, it opens the door to talk about things. To talk about other things outside of wrestling too. But even random conversations. Instead of having pre-planned things on notes. Okay, we're going to do this topic on a regular podcast. We press play. We'll check in on the match and talk about the match a little bit. And maybe watching a match from Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage, for example, or Bret Hart triggers a conversation about something related to that person, or related to that person in the match, or related to something that you saw in the match. It's been fantastic. I really enjoy doing those podcasts. So I think that might just be the thing moving forward, where we just do watch-alongs on the episode. Now we'll still probably do random episodes on top 10 this and maybe a autobiography episode or whatever. But I feel like that might be where that show is right now. Is we'll just do watch-alongs until. And the thing about wrestling, which is great, is that not just WWE, you have WCW, you do AEW at this point now, 5 years in, they have some older material that you can watch. Just TNA stuff I can watch, but mainly WWE, of course, in the Peacock and W Network and all that. There's so much material to cover. Certain main events, WWE Superstars, the Wrestling Challenge, the Raws, SmackDowns, random episodes of those shows. I mean, Raw alone has over 30 years of material to cover. SmackDown has 25, 26 years of material to cover per episode. And you can watch a 2-hour episode of Raw, or even the early days of Raw was only an hour. Put on a Raw from 93 and just run and talk. And you can feed out material out of those shows, filter out content of those shows on discussion points. It's like a round table with the backdrop. Obviously, you can't really see when we do the watch-alongs. You can't really see the actual show, what we're watching, because obviously there's rules to this. You can't really post that on the podcast because of copyright rules, of course. But we give you guys timestamps, you play it, and then we just have discussions. But I gotta tell you, the numbers on those things have been really, really good. Very popular so far. We gotten views in thousands and whatnot, hundreds and all that on those episodes. So I think we're going to lean into that going forward. Like I said, we're going to be doing Royal Rumble this month on that show. I guess again, subscribe to that podcast for the audio folks. The rest of our respective podcasts on my YouTube page you can find as well too at Earnest Christian on YouTube, and there's his own podcast link on there as well too with video. But really, I'm really enjoying doing that show. It's been so much fun, a lot of fun. So anyway, that'll do for me here on this podcast. Again, dated January 4th, 2024. I'm gonna go take a sleep. I am tired. Take full advantage of that since no one's home. Kids are asleep. I got a long day tomorrow. I'm working a double tomorrow. So again, I am on Twitter /X at EJ Christian 7. If you got TikTok, we do TikTok now. I can't believe we're actually doing TikTok here. TikTok at Earnest Christian on TikTok. YouTube, of course, like I said, at youtube.com/Ernest Christian. And until the next episode, we'll be back to normal pretty much as this podcast next week. Till then, we'll talk to you guys soon. Love y'all. Take care and see you.
Thank you.